Yo. Can you guys give me a mic check? Hear me okay? See the screen? Moolah, that's great. The good old days, huh? I used to socialize on Twitter a lot more, as you probably know, back in the day. But since finance Twitter, since like the elections and all the politics and all, I'm not going to lie to you, I've shed away a lot. It's a mess, one big hot mess. You know, so hopefully it calms down. I miss it. It was a lot of fun. So you guys see the screen? Hold on, let me make sure. Now you see charts? Cool. All right. What else do I need here? I have these charts too. Let me get it. Private Twitter is on here. And oh, that's what I need. All right. All right, what do we got? We'll get rolling. We'll get 11 on the head. We'll get it started. Frank is asking, what is up with IGT? Nothing's really up. It's just kind of quiet. I just hope I think it's got, you got earnings. You got enough time to earnings. So I think she busts out before earnings. This SGMS didn't really bust, but grinded its way to highs. So IGT shouldn't be too far behind. I haven't seen any more action in it, unfortunately. Maybe that's going to be a final heads up there. Yeah, so we'll talk a lot about flow, obviously. I share with you what my impression of the flow is right now. It's kind of interesting. We'll talk earnings. I know a lot of you guys and gals are into that. And whatever symbols you're interested in, we could take a peek, see if there's any recent action. Good morning, Mr. Jim. Yeah, no, Somebody was just asking me about what's up with the IGT. So we were just talking about that a bit. Morning, another gym. Got several gym, huh? Oof, a lot of gym bows around. A lot of gyms. Boeing. Truly remarkable Boeing. What did it do? Let me see. It had a big move, but what did it do after that post-election? This was... So this is from the election on right here. Never took much of a breather, huh? You got a little breather here, March, April, May, June, sideways. Then explosion, August, September. That's it. You think it was? You got ERG, you got the tax thing that they're going to benefit from. That's what a lot of these companies have gotten a second boost. But yeah, that's what we'll talk about a little bit. This market is not, trying to find the right words to say it. You can't play this market with kid gloves. You know what I mean? You gotta be aggressive. You can't be scared of losing, and you got to try to like stay smaller. And that's what we're seeing in flow. And I'll explain to you exactly what I mean by that. What they're doing in the option market. Yeah, they're just right now. The smart money out there is just they're not afraid of losing money. Yeah, they're not putting as much on the line as they did the initial stages. Like when this post-election, we were seeing, and you probably remember me screaming on Twitter, and those of you who are in the Steam room, bull missile, bull missile. Like there was literally 3-4 huge aggressive bets every couple days. You know, they were putting big money on the line. And now we're not seeing that. We're seeing more of this speculative type activity in an aggressive way. And they're not afraid to give back a little bit of profit to try to milk every single last penny that, until the music stops, And honestly, if you think about it, that's exactly the type of mentality you needed throughout this, because you look at a chart like Boeing, risk reward wise, you're saying to yourself, why the hell am I going to buy this thing? Yeah, like we were seeing it, remember, in Marriott. Look at Marriott. Look at this thing. And listen, I'll be the first to admit it. I was one of the first people to say, even seeing that aggressive buying, being like, how could you buy Marriott here? How could you buy Marriott up here? How could you buy Marriott up here? And meanwhile, it just keeps going. Visa. It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. But yeah, you can't be afraid of giving back some profits. And that's the only way I think you could participate with a clear head here. All right, let me get started here. We'll talk a little about that early on, and then we'll go into some of the action. All right, what do I got to do? This is checked. I think I'm already recording. Could that be? Yep, I think I am. All right, welcome everybody. Another Saturday Sweep series. Market has been on a tear. We're heading into yet another earnings season as time just flies by here into 2018. Very exciting time in the market. A lot of explosive names out there. We were just highlighting a few: the Boeing, Visa, Marriott. Just a lot of names that prior to this rally would have been last on your list as far as going parabolic, and they've all exploded. So I want to talk a little bit about what I have been seeing in the flow and continue to see, basically sharing insight of how the smart money is approaching playing these names, this market, via options. So we'll talk a little bit about that. We'll talk about some setups, some of Friday's flow, and then we can get into any names you have on your mind that you may be interested in. We could check out the flow, see if there's any recent activity there. Always a good thing when sweepers are on your side, because if you guys remember, sweepers, in my opinion, are the top source of momentum, at least one you can rely on. You have some sweeper activity in one of your positions. I've heard from many people who followed me on Twitter over the years that they get excited when I post sweeper activity in the name they're already in, because a lot of times you'll see some juice there. All right, so we'll go over, and you guys could throw a couple ticker symbols at me, and we'll go over some of the names. Let me lower this. Okay, some of the names you guys might be interested in. All right, so I was talking a little bit about this before we got started here. Of what I'm seeing in the overall flow, okay? And as you guys know, two things get me really excited. One, most importantly, is when the sharp money out there is getting aggressive, okay? Meaning they're showing that urgency. They really want to own upside calls in a name, okay? And the best of both worlds is when they're putting some serious money behind it. Okay. And like I mentioned earlier, you guys heard me use the term, bull missiles and bazooka Joe and anything we could get a kick out of. But, in reality, that's what I mean when I say these things, is not only the approach to buying and getting involved in this position is aggressive, but they're really putting some big money behind it. Okay. Initially, throughout this whole rally, especially when this rally got started post-election, we were seeing a ton of that. We were seeing huge, aggressive bull bets across the board in everything, okay? We still see that from time to time. We're seeing a lot less of that, but we're seeing a lot of aggressive spec flow, as I like to call it, meaning they're being aggressive in buying it. They're showing that urgency, like they're in a rush to own something, but they're not laying wood. And what I mean by that is they're not, staying close to the money, deep in the money, and laying that juicy premium, okay, which shows they're making a bet on the underlying. What they're doing is they're going out of the money, cheap premium stuff, and they just, buy the living daylights out of these things. Because in reality, they pile these things up volume wise, and for them it's peanuts compared to their approach and how they were playing these things throughout this whole rally. All right, we just saw that Friday in IWM. Okay, prior to that, if you guys remember, I'm almost positive I posted this on Twitter too, but those of you who are members of the Steam Room know they were just going bananas on SPY, out of the money cheapies, just one after the other, 2 weeks out, 3 weeks out. And, what that tells me is, and it's starting to really dawn on me now. That's the approach you have to take in this market. Otherwise, you're going to have a tough time. Okay? You're going to have a tough time in two ways. One, you're going to be gun shy and you're not really going to participate in all this upside, which is ridiculous. Okay? Whether you think this is a bubble, whether you think the market's overvalued, okay, it really doesn't matter as a trader. You shouldn't even be thinking about these things. You know what I'm saying? You're not buying a stake in the company, for crying out loud. You're not some fundamentalist out there. You're looking to make money. Bubble, even better. Things go up faster, quicker, bigger, and you can look to take advantage of that. Okay? So I think that approach that we're seeing from the sharp money in the options market makes a lot of sense to me. And them staying with these cheapies, as I like to call it, rather than laying the wood, dishing out the big cash as they were earlier on in this bull market, also makes sense to me, because then it's showing they're not afraid of losing. They're willing to give back some of the profits they made. Okay, that's what they're risking. Their reward is what we're seeing right now. Okay, that's their reward. Like, they're willing to give the money they're pumping into these cheapies, which is peanuts compared to the type of action they can play. But like the DIA they were buying, they can catch these type of moves and make a dent off those cheapies. All right, so I think what we could take away from that, not just now, but in any market or environment we come across like this, they could be consolidation or a pullback finally, or something to that effect, and then a whole new leg higher, which dwarfs this for all we know. Who knows? So this is a lesson I think we can take from the flow, not just now, but anytime we see an environment like this. And the lesson is, you don't want to be gun shy. Okay, I see that a lot. I see a lot of traders out there trying to overanalyze things, and they're a little gun shy about pulling the trigger. But in reality, take a step back and think about it. Like, if you've been trading throughout this bull market, like most of you have already, you probably made a decent amount of money. All right. To risk a smaller portion of that to try to take advantage of any upside that's left is so well worth it. Okay. So the two things to take away is, you don't want to be too gun shy. You want to still play, but the name of the game is stay smaller. If the smart money can do it, you can do it. Okay. So it's almost like, again, you're taking that speculative approach, but you get a little lucky, you can make some nice scores there, and you're still participating. Okay. And if you do get caught, because listen, nobody knows when the music stops here. Nobody knows. Trust me. Okay. Even in flow, I don't think we're going to see any signs or hints of that until it's here. You understand? Like, for example, Monday, Tuesday, we can come in and we could just see the flow turn for the worse. And that might be the initial signs that a temporary top may be in, or a top in general is in. You understand? So it's not too late per se, but we're not going to know till we're actually there. And that's how usually tops are anyway. You don't know until it happens. You know what I mean? And then you adjust accordingly. So again, we're seeing a lot of that. The IWM, they were hitting up, what was it? Two weeklies. And again, this is not the start of it. They've done it with SPY. They've done it with DIA, as you know. They've done it in names like Boeing. They've done it, we were talking about the Marriott. And listen, like I mentioned earlier, I'll be the first to admit it. Like, how many times I've said, how do you buy Marriott up here? This is Marriott. Like, look at this explosion. Okay, so I'm not going to sit here and tell you guys that that's, this is the way I was looking at things throughout this whole rally, because I haven't. But I think this is the lesson we can take out of this and apply it to any time where we feel a little uncomfortable because maybe we came a long way too quick or something to that effect. As long as your signals are there, the flow is there, you really don't want to move to the sidelines, because I've been there, done that, guys. I used to take the approach when I was primarily a position trader where I would just move to the sidelines when I felt things were overheated. But the problem is you can miss out on a lot of upside. And yes, you're not losing money per se, but these are the type of markets you really want to look to take advantage of. Because when we get into chop mode or, a correction or anything to that magnitude, you're going to regret that you didn't. And I think taking the size down approach and still participating is kind of the best of both worlds. Okay. You got to be willing to give back some of your profits. You can't have the approach where you're going to look to hold on to every penny you've made throughout this bull market, and you're going to time it to the top where you're not holding anything. It's just not going to work that way. All right, so that's what we're seeing in the flow. And you could see here, I think the board in here, the scanner picked up a lot of it. Let me see, hold on, of the IWM. You could see that, and look at these sweeps, right? 26,000, 26,000, 12,000, 12,000, 12,000, 24,000, 20. Just continuously, And like for SPY, that's primarily where we were seeing a lot of it. This is the last couple of days. Let me pull up calls here. Oh, and the other thing I want to hit on too, they have protection. We're looking to do, and this, listen, it's not any, we were talking about this in the last webinar, if you guys remember. There's no magic formula or anything like that, okay? But we're going to do a webinar. We're going to try to do it during the week, maybe on a Tuesday. Lucci, myself, and somebody else who's a member, just to get people brushed up on what they can do to hedge and protect their accounts if they feel like they're a little too long. What are things to look at to get a gauge on how much you should protect, how protected you should be, because there are a lot of people interested in that. And we're going to try to shoot out a webinar at some point, within the next week or two, hopefully, on that. Okay. Because I know a lot of you guys were asking that. But that's another thing too. I think these guys can be aggressive like they are because they're buying protection. They're buying protection. When we see this, one or two put buyers that pop up out of nowhere, these are guys likely that are just protecting their long positions. So they got their downside, like we were talking about. They're worried about some flash crash or something extravagant. Nobody's worried about a little pullback off a government shutdown. People are licking their chops for that, okay? They're worried about some exogenous event that really sets things off, and they don't have as much control. And the easy solution to that is to put on some protection. All right. So yeah, you give back some money, but you're not going to get hit over the head. And that's why they can be as aggressive as they've been. All right. SPY, we've been seeing, again, the same thing. Some weird strikes too, some really out of the money, 290s, 300s we were seeing. So a whole bunch of stuff. They're doing it across the board in ETFs. IWM just started up recently. It was SPY. It was DIA for a while. You guys remember us talking about this. What is the webinar has reached the maximum number of attendees? What is that? So DIA, they were buying the Junes. Most recent has been the June action. Okay. And you can see this thing has exploded. All right. So we're seeing across the board in ETFs. As far as names are concerned, we're seeing it from spec names that may catch rumor chatter to Bitcoin plays to the big names. I've seen more cheapies bought in like a Cisco or a Microsoft that I've ever seen before. And I'm talking about cheap crap, guys. I'm talking about nickel, 10-cent stuff. You would see that from time to time, but never as aggressive as we've been seeing it. And I refer to that as spec action. That's what it is. Because you guys know for the most part, I'm not a big fan of that. I want to see them. I want to know they believe, right? But we're not seeing as much of that as we would like, and for good reason. I mean, to do that up here is kind of silly. So that's why they're taking the spec action approach. All right, let's go to Friday's stuff. And then we can talk about earnings. We can talk about earnings as you guys throw names at me. But let's go over some of the Friday stuff here. Here's some of the top bets, bull bets. What I try to do every day at the close, not just notable action, but stuff that really caught my eye kind of action. Lately, a lot more lately, it's been repeat action, which is not the same. But I try to select the top action out there, not just size-wise, quality as well. All right, this came in late. Coors Feb 70s. There was this sweeper here. This, I'm telling you right now, and whoever's a Steam Room member can vouch, this is becoming an every hour thing, not every day thing, every hour thing, where you have sweepers come in, and then all of a sudden a huge block follows a couple minutes later and has them paying up. This was pretty quick, but you can see here, Coors 400 Feb 70s, 204. That's 15:56, the time of the sweep. And then, boop, look, what was that, about 15 minutes later, 13 minutes later, this guy comes in and hits the 70s again, pays up about 16 cents. What's it saying here? 1 second, guys. Someone was not allowed to enter this webinar because it's full. Well, what can I do? How do I fix that? To dismiss this, leave me alone. They're showing me getting prompts here from the webinar thing. It's annoying me. So here's the Coors action. You guys still hear me okay, right? Everybody out there still hear me okay? They're not screwing with you guys, are they? Okay, good. Now it's saying it's not letting any more people in, but I'm not equipped to fix that. You guys know how illiterate I am when it comes to technology. So look at the Coors. Look at this move on Coors. Powerhouse. And you can see where they came in with that order. So you got Feb 70s there. I'm not sure when what the earnings date is there. But like a lot of these things, we're seeing earnings. Those of you who don't know my philosophy when it comes to earnings, if you like action in a name, if you think you can get movement, right? Because we talk about momentum created off this action. If you think that name and that action's worth playing a run-up into the number, then I'm okay with that. If you're trying to get a gauge on what the earnings may look like because of the action, you're taking the wrong approach. In other words, in simple English, because this Feb action came into Coors doesn't mean they're reporting a huge number this quarter. Okay, so that's the best approach to take with these things. If you think Coors, you can hop on here, ride the momentum up to the release of earnings, and then what a lot of members do, and they've been doing it more and more, finding a lot of success. If you do get a decent profit playing the run up into earnings, leave a piece. Leave a piece into the number if you think you could get a good, see a nice number. Maybe they blow out and get lucky and catch that explosion. All right, but this is not a predictor of earnings. There's nothing that can predict earnings out there. There's too many intangibles. There's too many different things. Okay, it's a crapshoot. So that's my approach. I know a lot of you guys already know that. I just wanted to mention that for some of the new people here, so they don't think I'm giving out earnings bets here. All right, so that's Coors. Here's another retail name. A lot of us played this name, day traded it. I think a couple of people took it for a swing. DSW. This was one of the top sectors early on in the morning overall in the market on Friday. And then you had this really aggressive activity. They ended up easily opening the largest position of open interest. Fed 22.5 calls. You could see they started early in the morning there. And then caught the Dr. J halftime pump, which helped it out even more. And the volume swelled as far as the call side too. All right, so here's where the action came in. And you could see pop, comes down, relax, another pop, and a grind higher. But decent move for this name. And big picture wise, if you pull up a daily, I'm no chartist. What I do like about this is that you got this choppy consolidation here where sweepers can tilt the odds in your favor of a break. What I'm not crazy about right now is that there's so many eyeballs on it because of the Dr. J pump, etc. But honestly, in this market, it hasn't really mean much. My rationale behind that is a lot of people are going to tail on to that, right? When they watch halftime show, they're going to buy some calls, and now you're relying on a lot of people looking to make money in these things. So they may be a tough trip, maybe a shakeout, that type of thing. But that's the one thing I don't like about it is that there's a lot of eyeballs on it. Here's a big time put seller. The ticker is A. Feb 70 puts. Look at the size. 30,000 Feb 70 puts, destroys the bid there, 56 cents. Takes in 1.7 million. And then a minute after that, another 8,800. So huge size. So the stock was, I think it's trading 73. So you're talking about $3 out of the money as far as selling premium. And more than likely, when you see this type of stuff, especially this names have been hot, because there's no call activity, it's tough to get a gauge on upside potential. What they may be looking at. A lot of times you'll just see a nice floor be put in and then a gradual grind higher, or, if it catches call activity next week, then can start moving higher. But usually puts in a nice floor. So if you see some weakness there, you may look at it as an opportunity, knowing that this guy basically is calling short-term bottom 69.5, 70. But this has been a strong name. And interestingly enough, I think this catches earnings, which is a pretty ballsy thing to do. So, but this, you can see a strong name and some huge put selling activity. LVS, I think we spoke about this name last week on the webinar because it saw some decent call activity. Big block, but a decent amount of call sweepers around the block, which confirmed it. We always like that, right? We want to see sweepers confirm a big block. That tells us that the block is legit, not replacing stock, not tied to stock. Yeah, that was over here, though. And LVS did see repeat activity throughout the week last week. So this is a little bit of a stretch now. Again, I've used that word a lot of times and looked silly. Okay, the Marriott, we just used as one example of many. Visa, how many times did I tell you guys Visa looks stretch? So my job is to tell you my impression on the flow. You guys need to take the wheel as far as everything else is concerned. Shouldn't be listening to me. All right. But yeah, so LVS, out of the whole casino sector, which has been solid, as you guys know, Boyd was the most aggressive activity out of the whole group, BYD. Then we would see wind sweepers from time to time, all that stuff. LVS, believe it or not, has been the action that has popped up more recent than the others. Now, LVS does catch a lot of action, so I wouldn't read too much into that. You know what I mean? It's not like BYD, where it doesn't catch as much action as the other two. LVS always finds a way to catch action. But LVS and MGM have been popping up a lot as far as in the casino sector. All right. So they've been great. Another name that's on there is this MLCO. I'll get to the Fox in a bit. That's in the group as well. Size opening block there, 975 grand, 13,000 Feb 30s. And this name as well has seen some activity. The whole group. And this MLCO, again, as far as some of the stuff we're seeing out there, not as stretched. At least it's got a little pull once in a while, right? Up, down, nice little uptrend. So just be careful with earnings on a lot of these things. That's all, because they all have rallied. But the whole casino group is hot. You could have thrown a dart there and made money. This group, you guys know, I've been extremely bullish on because of the flow. Not the sexiest group. Nobody really wants to own these things, but everything you've labeled or put in that category eventually has really got hot, okay? And these broadcasting names have really got hot, a good chunk of them. We were seeing flow in Fox basically into the lows with Comcast, when all that action started, the CBS and all that. And we continue to see bullish activity. Here they bought 3,000 Jan 2630, 6.5 calls for 50 cents. Opening bet, not the biggest bet, could also be rolling out and be replacing some Jan positions that expired, because there was a ton of Jan calling, ton of Jan call buying in the space, as you guys know. So it could be replacing that, but more bull flow in the Fox. All of them. Comcast still looks great to me. Quarter a downgrade. I think it was Thursday. They couldn't give two shits about that downgrade. I think it went green that day, and then up again. But this looks good. Ready to break highs, just breaking highs here. They tattooed it into the low, but again, leaps, which I think was the best thing, because it told us we could continue to look at this thing on any dips. Remember we were talking about that? The one thing, a lot of people just brush aside the leaps, but a lot of times if you see leaps initially, and then you start seeing the flow spill into some, shorter duration strikes, the leaps basically tell you this is something to keep an eye on, for the foreseeable future. Any dip, don't ignore this thing just because they started buying things a year or two out. So, yeah, they all look good. CBS has been a bit of a laggard. Actually had a little bit of flow again this week. There was some news, too. I don't know if they're looking to buy somebody or whatever the case may be. But basically, there was one bet in CBS. It was those March calls, you guys probably remember. So she's still grinding it out here, has been a laggard. Not a whole lot of action since that March bet, but might be opportunity there. You guys may see opportunity there. What else we got? Where's this one? Oh, this was interesting to me. Small sweep, unusual though. Anybody know this name? Back. Chemical name. We've been seeing quite a few of these names pop up. So, look, strong stock. Name doesn't catch activity. I've never seen it before in my life. and catches a sweep. March 35 calls, a $1.10, swept multiple exchanges, opening activity. Again, may catch earnings. I'm sure it does, like everything out there. But a name definitely keep an eye on. Praxim Basic Materials Chemicals. All right, so that was some of the stuff that caught my eye. Again, not all initial activity, but that's just part of the territory right now with the market being so hot. Here was some of Friday's sweepers. DSW we spoke about. Micron, a lot of small sweepers out there. That's small for Micron. Feb 2nd, 45 calls. Freeport had a lot of action. But again, if you guys remember how much Jan call buying there was in Freeport? So all that call buying Friday is likely just replacing those expiring Jan positions. All those profitable positions, whatever exposure they want to replace, that's what you had going on there. So it's a little misleading, especially on a big expiration like Jan. Like, think about how big of an expiration that is. A ton of Jan action. So a lot of the action on Friday, a lot of the, just in general, put buying, call buying can be misleading. All right, but FCX really active. So they were replacing a lot of that. DHI, how about this one? This is another name. Like, we saw Bill Miller leaps in DHI. Okay, we saw those sharp leap sweepers in the home builders. Bill Miller supposedly has a position like that. That's why I call them Bill Miller sweeps. But we saw them back here. No, back here. Okay, so they started buying here, and then all that action came into this. You had this consolidation here, and then boom, big move. So again, up here, God knows. But a little bit of action in DHI, May 55 sweeper there. These are just other sweepers, opening sweepers. GM had some bullish sweeper activity on Friday. Feb 9th, 43.5 calls. SEE had a little small unusual sweep. USB, the bank, DSW, we spoke about. We did this. Wait. Oh, here's the next list. Here was a little spec flow. Small money. TOO. I think it was a shipper we saw. Tiny bet, though. Tiny bet. Could be an earnings play. They played May 3s. 30 cents. But it was a sweep. Square, a little sweeper activity, small sweeper activity. Pay, P-A-Y. This looks interesting. Got to check earnings there. What I like to do, aside from day trading off sweepers, if I think they can create enough momentum, or at a decent spot, I like to buy when they're flat or negative on the day, and then I could get a push maybe to green, that sort of thing. If you're swing trading, what I recommend is these are the type of things you just keep an eye on the name. This is how you get a heads up on the possibility of more activity coming in, and you already know. Like, let's say, for example, you got this pay, okay, and you like to set up here. It's a small sweep. Now you're ready. You see some sweeper activity come into pay Monday. You see a couple additional smaller sweepers come in. Now you're saying to yourself, okay, something may be cooking here now. Oh, I remember that pay sweeper from Friday. So that's the way I approach, or would approach a lot of these smaller sweeps. All right, Rig had interesting action too Friday, but what it looks like, what I was told anyway, because it was a big cancel replace on a big block tied to stock, the May calls. If you're wondering, there was some big action in May. And I was told off to cancel a replacement. They canceled and replaced the order. It was tied to stock. So initially, it looked like just clean buying coming in. I'm hearing a good portion was tied to stock. Anyway, there was some sweeper activity aside from that. These Jan 26th 11.5 calls got some play on the rig. I like this rig. I think it's a matter of timing. See, they can be early because they can roll out, right? We see them do that all the time. All the time. And this is a candidate for that. But I think this has the capabilities of being a nice winner if you have enough time. I think it's a time thing. You know, here was the problem, okay? You have this move here. You know how I feel about that. This is why I don't like chasing this. Because this is normal. This is totally normal. So now you should be starting to look at rig again. You know? And if this is not a big deal for you, if you're in some front month options, they more than likely will be. That's why, you know, a lot of retail option players panic on any little pullback. They get shaken out. Time is the only answer, guys. It's the only answer I got as far as the option side to avoid getting stressed out and shaken out. All right. But I think rig has the potential to be a real nice winner. Could happen sooner, but I think you need the time. You know, because she's not, again, we saw FCX explode. So anything is possible. But it reminds me of FCX. What else? The ESW back. All right. There's one sweep I wanted to mention, which was my favorite action of the week. There was a couple names. My favorite one was this. FBHS. Anybody know this name? Guys, I'll get to your questions in a minute. I promise. Right after this, I'll get to your questions in a minute. Anybody know this FBHS? Anybody familiar with this thing? Fortune Brands, Home and Security. Yeah, so this was the best looking sweeper of the week. Okay. My cup of tea, a couple small sweeps, then one really good looking sweep. So you guys probably know, I think it was, when was it? Friday, Thursday? I think it was Wednesday. So it would be this day here. Okay. So that's where it caught the action. So you guys get an idea. Can you see that? I'll put candles on there so maybe you could see it better. Candles. Maybe you can see that better. All right. So faucets and home products. Yeah. So hot space, right? The space has been unconscious. The stock has been unconscious. They're doing something right. So catches a really good batch of good-looking sweepers. One fantastic-looking sweeper right here. All right. What I'm not crazy about, you know, if it came here, I'd be doing cartwheels. You know what I mean? It'd be GBT all over again. But it's all the way up here. So, I mean, basically what I'm saying is there may be a rest of pull in the interim. Now, is it worth waiting for that? For me, no. I took a shot on them. I'm swinging them. They're June calls. Okay. But that's the issue with these things. You know, when you come out of, that's why I love coming out of some consolidation in the overall market, you know, even just choppy markets, because anytime you see an order like that, it'll come into some nice consolidation. I hate chasing this shit. I just don't feel comfortable. And, you know, this is not the market to not feel comfortable chasing. But that's just the way throughout my career, you know, I've had a lot of success not chasing and buying pullbacks, consolidation. But you could get away with it in this market. So I just wanted to let you guys know this was the best looking sweeper of the week, FBHS. A little higher than where they hit it, maybe about what, a buck higher than where they initially hit it. So maybe you want to wait for a pull. Listen, you guys have a game plan, the most of you, and know how to play better than I do. My job, and where I know I can be an asset to people, and my niche, my expertise is just, I can tell you when it's a good looking order. The rest is in your control. All right. So another one that was interesting is this PVG. And it's a minor, okay? Usually I'm not crazy about minors. I like the spot. Okay, right? Consolidation here. So maybe they're going for the break out of this. The minors have been seeing some decent flow. The minors are starting to see some decent flow. Okay. Overall, they've been doing okay. You know what I mean? They've been doing okay. So the good thing is, I'm not a big fan of the minors because usually you're betting against the market, but they're hanging in there, right? They're trending higher with the market basically going nuts. And I think any little pause or pull in the market, maybe this group catches that aggressive batch of buying. So you still have some of these things in consolidation, and if they catch some decent looking action, they're worth watching. Okay. Again, this is a timing thing. June is primarily what they played. I would stick with that because it gives you enough time. You won't need that time. More than not, you never need that much time when they buy these things. But again, it helps you get through some choppiness, shakeouts, and stuff like that. This is basically right back to where they bought it. They bought it here. It was actually a solid day trade. I day traded as well, closed at the highs, had a follow through the next day. It was a nice move. It's a $10 stock. Nice 2-day move. And then right back to where it started, basically. So it's right at that spot again. All right. But it is a minor. Just take that into consideration. If you're another minor that caught some decent action is this NEM. This is a bit higher than where it caught the action. It caught it over here. So this had a little bit of a nice push. But a little breather here. So that's good. Okay. And again, look at these things. Okay. They look decent. So it doesn't, let's say you're long one or two positions in like tech and, home furnishing that's hot, and you're looking for another name. You don't want to have too much exposure to the overheated stuff. Maybe something to gold mining. And that's the thing I just want to get into before I take your questions. Basically, I like to look at individual sector sentiment. I'm a big sentiment guy, right? I look at sentiment with flow. I think the two together is magic. You don't really need to be a sentiment aficionado to know that a lot of sectors out there are scorched, literally scorched. Okay. Even energy scorched, meaning they were just too hot. Oh, and I hate to say overbought. It's not overbought. I guess it's overbought. Just too much bullishness. That's basically what I'm trying to get at. Okay. So that doesn't mean press the exit button, get out immediately. It's not that type of sell signal, but it's almost like a caution signal to say, all right, maybe if I got too much in this group, I'm going to lighten up a little bit or stop buying anything new there. You know what I mean? Size down. It's more of that type of signal. Okay. We're seeing it across the board. Tech, believe it or not, tech is the only one I think not in the hot zone yet. Very close. Everything else is. The groups that aren't, one, utilities, which have been destroyed. This is actually showing bullish signal as far as sentiment is concerned. And what was the other one? is it consumer staples, something like that, which is another flight to safety type sector. Okay. So what we could easily see, it doesn't have to happen this week, but maybe as earnings trickle out, depending on the reactions and so forth, some of the hot stuff lose some of the momentum, and then money shifts into some of these things that have been just overdone to the downside and washed out completely. You know, because I mean, utilities were hot. Believe it or not, utilities as a sector was scorched right before this happened. Okay, so that's how quick sentiment changes out there. It's nuts. You go from everybody bullish, everybody wants to own these things, to now nobody wants anything to do with them. And that's why I've been getting a lot of questions from members who pretty much like to look at the same things I look at about XLU, because we saw some sweeper activity there. But, you know, if you guys remember me saying, not as much as we would see if they really want these Utes. Okay. When they want XLU, you'll see sweeper activity like we saw in the IWM and the DIA specs. That's the type of acceleration of buying we'll see. Okay. So maybe now they're nibbling, you know what I mean? Putting some feelers in. That's very possible. And then we'll see them come at this. And I think it sets up a nice little bounce trade there. You know, and some names in the group. Yeah, Jim is talking TLT2, which has been another one. You know, for the most part, we've been seeing TLT put buying. You know, TLT put buying. So again, this is another spot where if things get overheated, they could come in. Look, it happens continuously, right? You get this wash. These bounces are tradable. Now, these bounces are sporadic, and for me, I don't know when they're going to come. They could come around some support and stuff like that. For me, there's got to be sweeper activity there for me to feel good about a bounce. Not saying it can't bounce without it, but that's what would set up a trade for me for a bounce play in these things. You know, and we've seen it. We've seen it. Like TLT, they could come after aggressively. A lot of times they'll be early too. They'll be early, do some buying, it still sells, and then they just keep buying and keep buying and keep buying. I think we've seen it over here on this wash. And, you know, you get a decent lift that even if you're early, you still can make some money. All right. So that's it as far as names. Like, if you're going to take anything from this webinar and as far as setups are concerned, the quality we're seeing less of. We're seeing a lot of repeat activity, and that just is obvious because this rally has lasted so long, and, you know, the strong names continue to get bought. Okay, so it's normal. So we're seeing less new ideas with the type of action that I would like to see. All right, so I think if you're going to take anything away from the flow now, what it tells us is stay in the game, stay bullish. You see something you like, participate. But the smarter thing to do is probably size down so you can stay looser. And if you're a little too long where you're feeling uncomfortable, lighten up or put on some protection. But I'm telling you, sizing down is a breath of fresh air. Trust me. And a lot of members who have listened and taken that approach have thanked me 20 times over throughout this rally. Okay. And you would think the opposite, right? You would think they would be cursing me out because they're not making as much money as if they sized up. But they're thanking me because a lot of stuff where they would get nervous about, shaken out of, they didn't. It allowed them to stay bullish and, you know, make some money by still participating. All right, let me get to some of your questions here. I see you got a bunch of them. So I definitely want to get to that. Rudy saying, first timer on your webinar, great because of good language where it's possible children can watch. Yeah, I tried to. I'm from Brooklyn, so that could be a problem at times, but I try not to slip up. I try to keep it clean if I can, but once in a while I'll slip out. What do we got here? Ani saying GG pullback. That's a minor. Yep. Had some action as well. This name always seems to catch action when the minors catch action. But again, look at this move. You know what I mean? Look at this move. Just another example of why I can't chase this and feel comfortable with that this is not going to happen at some point. You understand? Like, even if you bought here, if you're not selling this, the risk reward I don't think is worth it. Even though this pullback may end here, okay, at least you know the pullback has come and gone. So that's why I feel more comfortable on things that haven't done this yet. Again, I like to catch them before they make the move or right when they're ready to make the move, not when they're moving already. What else we got here? Any good-looking sweepers in First Solar Twitter lately? Twitter, interesting enough, has been quiet. Twitter has seen a ton of action and then caught, what was that upgrade? Seemed like everybody was bullish. This gapped up on the upgrade. I haven't seen a Twitter sweeper since. And prior to that, there were sweepers on every single dip along the way, if you guys remember me telling you. So nothing yet in Twitter. Again, earnings coming, but maybe if they pop up, could be a good sign for a trade. I don't know when earnings are exactly, if you have some time to play the run up there. First Solar always finds a way to catch action. That's been a hot name. It caught, let me see, First Solar caught some big activity into the strength too, which is probably underwater right now, but let's see. There's some big time action in First Solar. That was a block here. Here it is. 223, 74.5 calls. That's on 111. That was that day. Yeah, right into this day. So she's underwater. I haven't seen any action since. What I would recommend on something like this, if you're interested in First Solar for a trade, I would look for sweepers here. First sign of any sweepers off this pullback. If you're interested in this name, that would be an entry for a trade. Again, I don't know if you're going to catch this type of move. This thing's been really strong. So that's the First Solar. Twitter, same thing. Twitter, I haven't seen any action since that upgrade. Prior to that, there's been some decent sweeper activity in the name. Igor is saying juicy profit, LVS 130%. Thank you. Igor, love to hear it. That LVS was a nice setup. It was real nice. Again, coming off this pull, and then you had some action right off that pull, and this thing was a home run. Real nice. I like LVS. And Win. Again, it sounds like a broken record. All the casinos have done extremely well off sweeper activity. What else we got here? I'm going out of order because that's how this thing lines it up here. How did someone buy 3,700 cores after hours? What happened was, I think they canceled and replaced the order, Daryl. That's what happened. It wasn't after hours. Let me see on the board here. You can probably see it. See there? That block? 1557. So that was right before the close. And then they basically was a cancel and correct. They corrected on the amount, contract amount, because it was a late print. Where the hell is it? Yeah, see, that came after the close. See, late? So it was just a correction of that initial order. All right. SWN has been catching some action. Any thoughts? I hate that stock. Okay. Always see some sort of activity. I'm not a big fan of the stock, but I looked at it Friday because I saw a little bit of flow there. I mean, you're at lows here. So if you think you could catch one of these little bounces here, you might have a trade there. I know anybody who's been looking for more than that has gotten destroyed in this thing. And I would really need to see some good looking action in SWN for me to be interested. It almost goes into like that Chesapeake category, you know, where there's always some action, but yeah, it doesn't excite me. But like I said, yeah, at this spot, if you're looking for a trade, you were looking here for an entry for a bounce trade and you see some flow, you know, flow can be very useful to that. You know, maybe somebody, some of the smart money sees what you see. But just off the flow itself, there's better stuff out there right now. Snap has seen action, yeah. If you guys remember last week, I told you there was some Snap buying and they bought weekly puts protecting against off some of those downgrades. So basically they were buying, I think they were Feb calls, maybe late Feb or something like that. And they bought some weekly put protection to protect the short-term downside risk. So that was last week, a little bit of weakness there. This week, we saw some more Snap buying come in. Okay. Now you do have earnings. I don't know the date there. So could be related to that. You know, Snap has been tricky. I like the setup there in Snap, you know, rather than buying up here. I like this. But again, it's Snap. It's almost like Twitter last year. A lot of sellers. Ulta, I haven't seen anything really good looking in Ulta recently. The only thing we saw that a lot of us missed in the room were some weeklies, cheap spec action in weeklies, and then caught some chatter that could have been a profitable trade. Aside from that, this was the last good looking bet in Ulta. I'll show you. You know what? Let me go to my Twitter. I probably find it quicker. Hold on. Because I posted it on my regular Twitter too. Let's see if they're still open. It had some time, if I remember correctly. Ulta. Because I know I had a half decent move. Let me see the dates here. Now I'm going too far back here. Hold on. Get this out of the way. Where are we at? It's got to be. Oh, this was from Bordarelli. This was it, June. Yeah, you got the March call spread, March 230 by 270 call spread. That was late December, I think it was. Let me pull it up here. So you had a big March call spread in Ulta in December. And this is Jan. This wasn't Jan. Was it Jan that it must have been Jan that these expired then? These expired. The 225s, that was December too. So yeah, it's been a little bit because I remember initially they got a little bit run over. So yeah, right around here, they bought the 225s, but those just expired. I haven't seen any notable action recently. They made some decent money on that trade, but nothing notable. It was a nice sweep. Yusef saying Coors, please. Yeah, Coors I spoke about. Coors caught some late day action yesterday. So some decent looking sweeper activity in Coors. I don't know when earnings are. You can see the reaction in it off that action. You know, that was the reaction to the big action. This was the reaction earlier in the day to smaller sweepers. So I had a nice little push higher. But Coors here, some decent Feb action. They're right here, Yusef. Maybe you just popped in, but hold on. These are the ones they played. Top right here. Feb 70s. 204, the top print was 220. Scott is saying 2.7 earnings. So it catches earnings, but you got a little bit of wiggle room there. You got a little bit of wiggle room. Yeah, the other names too, we got to see. It's almost like a day-by-day approach. You see some of the tech earnings come out, but some of those tech names come out last, right? Like the name that I was interested in already had a pretty decent move here. Saw some action into the pullback, if you guys remember, CRM. Remember they had the earnings pullback, and then the whole tech sector pulled back. This was one of the first ones to see buying into that pullback. But look at this move already. And she always catches a nice little burst into the number. The ADSK, you might see some movement out of these things. Because this is the thing about tech. If you remember last week, we were talking about how a lot of these names for the first time are going into this quarter not up in the clouds, where the risk reward is a disaster, right? Prior to this week, you had a lot of names that weren't even at highs, still off their highs. Another one, Micron. I think Micron now, remember you guys asking me about Micron over and over and over again, and I kept like a broken record. I kept telling you guys, for me, there's no edge off the flow. There's so much action. Everybody knows about the action. The stock keeps going higher. It's bullish. There's no edge off the flow in Micron. Flow was bullish. Price was bullish. Sentiment was bullish. Everybody and their mother was bullish. Okay. Now we have where we've had a pullback, consolidation, and we haven't seen a Micron missile in a little bit of time. We're still seeing flow. That's never going to stop. But we haven't seen one of those David Tepper sweepers yet in this pull. So when's Micron earnings? Anybody have a Micron earnings offhand? Maybe it comes. Oh, wow. March. See, I like that, Maria. I like that. See, we have time there now. So basically, if we see a missile in Micron, you got your trade in Micron. This is what you were waiting for, flow-wise, where you couldn't really do nothing here, but just ride the wave. You understand? This is this again. You know what I mean? That's that spot again. Now, again, we don't know how long this can go on for. There's always a possibility she can go without any missile. But for me, that's the trigger. I see a Micron missile that gives me a heads up on what they're looking at here, depending on strikes and what they're playing and so forth. Or the action to get really hot like it has. Micron can get swept literally from the opening bell to the closing ding dong. We've seen that, right? Sweeper, 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 sweeper. So that's what you're looking for now. Now you're looking for the real Micron flow to come back in, maybe a heads up that she's done doing this. So that's what we got going on there. But March is good. I was concerned that maybe it was early Feb, and then you'll see it right before earnings, and the only way to play is to roll the dice, So we got basically the whole month of Feb. If we can see some decent action relatively soon, we got a month to play with where maybe you get that run up and then, sell a chunk, leave a nice piece. Maybe you get lucky and you get one of those earning blowouts where you have a free ride and make a nice hit. Or if you're a degenerate, you leave the whole thing and roll the dice. Scan and saying, Jesus, I'm a newbie here. Welcome, Mr. Scan. Can you explain what is a sweep block, etc., how to interpret the terms? Yeah, this is the easiest way, okay? And for anybody who's out there, I should have done this. It's funny. When I forget to do it, I get the questions. And when I do it, maybe that's because I do it. That's why I don't get the questions. WallStreetJesus.com. Okay. Let me just take that link just in case you don't spell out the word street. It's ST. Okay. That's the link. You go to strategy. Okay. All these, you scroll to the bottom for the basics. Anything I'm talking about here, you should understand reading these short blogs. Okay. Sweeps just tells you exactly what a sweep is, why I pay attention to it, why I think it matters, and all that jazz. All right. How to use this information, how to use flow to get a gauge on smart money sentiment, looking for big moves, should you care whether an order is a bet or a hedge, all that stuff. Using flow as an indicator, which I think is so underused. All right. So, and some examples of how I day trade off it, all that stuff. So you go to the strategy section. All right. That's the easiest way. And you should be able to get a handle on everything. Trust me, if I can get a grasp on it, any of you can get a grasp on it. I try to keep, when it comes to this game, I try to keep it as simple as possible. The more complicated your trading strategy becomes, the bigger the disaster you have on your hands. All right, so you all could get it. And let me just, again, segue into this. If anybody's interested in any of the products we got, what we offer is Steam Room access. So basically, here's the stuff we got here. Okay, just to get this out of the way. We got a 3-day trial, no credit card. Okay, so you could come in and see exactly what the hell we're doing and whether it's for you or not. No credit card required, none of that stuff. So you get access to this room. This is the Steam Room. Okay, this is basically here all traders talking about the flow and what they're trading and how they're trading it. So it's, if you're looking for a strategy, this is more for you. I'm on audio video all day long. So basically giving play-by-play on the action out as it comes in, what I'm day trading, what's more for day trading, what's more for swing trading, what's a really good looking sweeper, is this a bull missile, all that fun stuff. All right, so I'm broadcasting all day long on that stuff. And then you got this filter here. That's just me and my commentary and the flow. If that's too much noise for you, you got the alert board, the heat map telling you where the flow is going, and the search function. So any order that the board picked up, so basically that's a scan for the most part, will be on this board. A lot of the stuff I pick up with my eyeballs, that's the scan I use, and won't make it to the board. So some of the early stuff I'm usually picking up on before it gets to the board. We're trying to figure out a way to get that on a board per se, but it's not easy because you can't scan for it. I'm looking at basically the whole tape. You know what I mean? I'm looking at everything. I don't have a scan set up. There's no criteria set up. So that's why you can't have that hit the board. People get dizzy. They get dizzy enough. All right. And the other thing is, so then after that, you get 50% off the Steam Room the first month. That's access to everything included private Twitter. So this is included in the premium package. All right. A lot of cool stuff on private Twitter. You can get the alerts. You can set up text message alerts, all that stuff. As soon as they hit the board, they are automated to private Twitter. Like that. Boom. Okay. And then I'll throw out a little commentary right after that as well. You don't get the audio video, obviously, on private Twitter. So that's the biggest difference. I post open interest and sentiment stuff on there as well. And then if you're interested, if it's a little too pricey for you, or you just, you want to get started in a more affordable, smaller way, we offer now private Twitter by itself. So you go on the products page, private Twitter feed, And for $59.99 a month, you'll get just private Twitter. All right. Any questions on that, you can hit me up and let me know. Let me get to more questions about stocks here. Let's see. Any other cool symbols on maybe Flow I didn't speak about? Or I see IGT. Ani and a couple of you are mentioned. I've been staring at IGT for it feels like 2 straight weeks. Caught sweeper activity into this. Okay. Pretty much doing nothing. This is just doing nothing. I love the spot here. If sweepers come in here, this is a perfect setup. I hate to use the word perfect because it's not initial activity. If you guys remember, IGT caught all that action down here and exploded. Remember that? That's where we loved it. Now, basically, you couldn't play it until you get this consolidation. So this offers up another entry at higher levels. It's already worth a look, in my opinion, but you get some sweeper activity to confirm here. I think it sets up lovely for a play to highs. One similar to that was this SGMS that caught another monster bet, which is my favorite. I'm in leaps. You guys know that for quite a bit now. This SGMS was a similar setup, right? Big run, a little bit of a breather here, caught some action, and she's at highs. And that's in the same group, the degenerate group, gambling. All right, so yeah, IGT is worth a watch here. Worth a watch on Flow, definitely. Another name, I don't know if any of you guys played this one. This was a name I liked a lot. Really aggressive action for this name. Again, not initial activity because they were tattooing this name at lower levels. But you get this wash, and then boom, sweeper, 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 and nice grind to highs. Yeah, IIVI 26. Cool company. They got earnings coming up, I think, in Feb 2 or January 31st. They should be coming. Let's see. I want to get some other names, maybe some stuff that hasn't moved. Who'd I miss? If I missed you, shoot out a question again. Don't take it personal because I just have no order here. Hold on. Nike, yeah, Nike, we saw some flow Friday again. Nike's been a strong name, strong group. Here's the, this is one of the small sweepers in Nike's. Jan 26, 67 calls. Right before that, July sweeper, July 70s. That was $2 lower. This was a block. Now I'm getting back to last year. These expired. So here's the recent action. July 70s, that was done at $64. And then you got, I think there was another small sweep like this. Jan 26th, 67 calls in Nike. But again, you're chasing green there now. You know what I mean? Another name, guys, by the way, where I don't know if you guys remember, the sweeper activity really got hot into the lows. And for some reason, I think it was these lows. So you revisited lows. But there was leaps and that sort of thing. And she finally got out. But again, if you had the time or you kept an eye on it, you would have at least participated in some sort of fashion trade-wise. You know, was it another name that got away from us completely? It's a shame. A couple guys got shook out of this thing. Deer. They hit this thing here pretty aggressively and size too. Let me see. Deer caught action Friday too. Anybody catch that deer trade? What an animal. So here's yesterday's action. 2-2. So that's February 2nd weekly, 167.5. Decent sweep. And I think, yeah, here's the big action. September 7th. Was it December's? I thought they were further out than that, but that might have been it. You can see the size there. That was at $115. It's $170 right now. Dear. Unreal. What else? Brian saying anything in Square? Yeah. There's been some flow in Square. Nothing that good looking. There was one March call sweeper in December that initially was underwater and now is back in the game. But that's the only really good looking action I've seen. But there's been flow in Square. Definitely bullish flow. You know, these names like the Micron I mentioned, they've been so hot and littered with flow that I'm looking, and maybe that's been the death on me of missing some of these trades, but I'm looking for that standout flow. You know, I'm looking for that good looking FBHS sweeper that I mentioned. And, you know, I'm being honest with you. I think that is bad in a way in this type of market. But if you're using the flow as an indicator, in other words, if you're looking at charts and you have had success looking at other stuff, flow can be a powerful indicator. Powerful. So you don't need to wait for a missile, you know, because you're not trading just off the flow. You know, you're trading off something else you have confidence in and using the flow as an indicator, confirmation. So if you see flow in Square come in and it's at a spot where it meets up to what you're looking at, that should be good enough. George is asking, where do we get the flow for sweep orders? We have Trade Alert powers our data. So Trade Alert, basically, we have a partnership with Trade Alert. All the information that I get, I share with you guys. A lot of the charts, all that stuff is Trade Alert data. My opinion, they're the best out there when it comes to options flow. And honestly, if any of you are interested in Trade Alert, it's Option Alert on Twitter. You give them a ring, ask for Ellen, and just, you know, say you were introduced by Jesus, and I'll cut. Because you know what it is? It's so much information, you can get overwhelmed with it. You know what I mean? If you want the information and you want to learn from it, I think that's the better approach. If you're going to go in there and say, all right, I'm ready, I'm just going to set some scans and ready to fire up, you're going to be overwhelmed. You know? But if you're interested in taking a peek, you should. Ask for Ellen, say, you know, mention Jesus sent you, and she'll take care of you. Ken is saying, does your private Twitter give all or almost? No, private Twitter is all the flow, Ken. All the flow. Private Twitter is the entire flow. It's not handpicked or anything. So basically, everything you see as flow in the trading room, you're going to get on private Twitter. I think the biggest difference, okay, if you don't have a trading strategy, okay, and that's fine. You have to admit that to yourself. If you haven't had success trading several different ways, that's everybody in this game has been down that road, okay, and you're looking for a new strategy per se, okay, I think the room is perfect for you to start with. Okay. And I know a lot of people usually look at it the opposite. Let me go to private Twitter first, then the room, because it's more affordable. The room, I think, is a good place to start because you have other traders trading off the action in real time in there with you. So you see how other people trade. There's so many. That's what a lot of people get. There's a misconception that it's only used a certain way. There are so many different traders in the room, and I'm talking about trading successfully off flow. You couldn't imagine. Who's trading equity? Who's trading options? You know, people all instantly assume that everyone's trading options. No, There's a lot of equity traders. Okay. Some people are just using the flow for sentiment reasons and trading ES. There's so many different ways to use and utilize the flow. And I think that's where the room is a big asset and can be the biggest help. On top of that, I'm not trying to sound arrogant. I'm on audio, video throughout the day, so you'll get a quicker understanding of what you need to look for in the flow to suit your style. Okay? What may be actionable to me is not necessarily actionable to you. Like, there's stuff that I say, listen, this is a good looking order. I'm not going to trade it. That very rarely happens, but it may not be the best day trade, but this is a perfect swing trade opportunity. You know what I mean? So that's where I think the room could be a huge help. Because again, there's more information, hands-on, and you have me explaining everything, and you can learn to look for, it's not that complicated, but you can learn to look for what you need to pay attention to. All right. But again, private Twitter, there's a lot of information on there. You got open interest changes daily, every morning. I post a lot of sentiment stuff. The top bets at the end of the day, top sweepers at the end of the day. Some people just pay attention to that who work 9-to-5 jobs. Okay. If you can't pay attention to the flow in real time, I post this stuff at the end of the day, which can be extremely useful. This type of stuff. The size call activity on the day, all the sweepers on the day, and then stuff like this. The Friday's top bets. Okay. So again, the premium package, you get private Twitter included. I get that question too much for some reason. I know I sound like a broken record, but I get that question a lot. What else we got? Youssef is saying hi, saying I'm not saying Lucci. This is Wall Street Jesus you're talking to. Saying Lucci is Satan. No, I'm just kidding. No, saying Lucci is separate, is a different person. I work with Saying Lucci. I'm Wall Street Jesus. But do we have an app for the Wall Street Jesus website? It's funny that you asked that, okay? Because they just rolled it out, and I'm told she's ready to go. There is you see this here? Now, you guys probably know better than me. At the bottom of the screen, there's a desktop app, and you click on it, and mobile, I'm told you get the alerts and audio on mobile. So yeah, see this? Right here. This is new. No, Youssef, I'm busting your chops. You don't have to apologize. I'm busting your chops. Here is, this is fairly new here. So they just rolled this out. All right. The Saying Lucci gang, they know what they're doing on the tech side. Tech could be a real pain in the rear end. Trust me. When it comes to this stuff, I am the worst. So, but all this tech stuff Saying Lucci put together, they did a good job. All right, so there's apps there too. Those of you who are members out there, I don't know if you're aware of this because I wasn't, but they have apps now. All right, what are the questions here? Anybody that I missed? Any tickers or anything before we get out of here? Caterpillar, yeah. I mean, what can I say about Caterpillar? That goes into the story. William Struck. What's up, William? KHC, is interesting because I'll be honest with you, William. Usually this name would catch spec flow, cheap, out of the money, speculative type action. And I would like it as a day trader because usually there was chatter surfacing somewhere. I get the quick pop and get out of it. There's been some real buying of late. Okay. Some of it out in April, as you know. So yeah, I think it's something to look at now. A lot of times I would ignore it. But now I think it's something to look at. Something to look at. Again, and this has happened a lot of the names they just brush off, have been in play. Yeah, and April's the way to play it, I think. April would be the way to play it. I think any pause in the market, you may see some strength come into this. You had the Pepsi, that's been acting better. Again, Pepsi, I think it was just a matter of the spot. Again, another example, guys. The Pepsi action came in up here, had a little bit of a lift, but then, likely she'll pull. I mean, look at this move. There'll be some sort of chop pull. It did. I'm sure people got shaken out. That's where time helps. Or you have to sit and wait and risk missing it on some sort of news or something. So, but you got to be okay with this. The spot. Another name was ABBV, where the spot sucked, excuse my French. There wasn't much of a pull, a little bit, looks like nothing now. And then boop, to highs. So that's what I mean when I say the spot. They get tricky up here because what I measure is how much more upside before this thing pulls or consolidates a bit. That's what I say to myself. And if you're okay with that, if you have enough time to absorb that, or you may use that to add, right? I know a lot of people who do that and have a lot of success with. So that's how you got to look at these things. There's been a lot of them because the market's been so hot. Pepsi, ABBV, remember this FCAU? The reason why I felt like you would have to act on this immediately is because you had this consolidation, at least, off this move, but still up there. And look, if you waited, there was a little bit of a pull, hardly anything, and then just ripped. Look at this name, by the way. You guys remember the flow that came into this thing? Unbelievable. Unbelievable. So, that's, again, depending on what type of trader you are. I see somebody mentioning EA that got its act together. I think we spoke about this, right? Last week. Now we know who was doing that, right? Now we know where that aggressive activity came from in EA. We got the news. It's out there. That's why I mentioned to a lot of members that day of the downgrade, where it was down pre-market, we know there's a legitimate Sharpie buying this thing. It's public information now. So anytime you see some decent red in this name, you got to keep an eye on it. We know now. It's confirmed. That sharp action we were seeing in EA was, in fact, a Sharpie. So, yeah, she's looking like she got her act together here. Jesus, are you seeing any action? THO, XPO. No, not in THO, but XPO has seen a ton of action. Ton of action. Ton. Red hot tranny name. All the trannies littered with flow, Pete. Littered with flow. From the JB Hunts of the world, all of them. Ryder, they were a bit early on. They had to roll out some of it, but end up, having a big move. So many of them. Every single one of them. They UNP, probably the sharpest activity of the bunch, UNP. That came over here. Look at this explosion. The question now, Pete, which I'm sure you ponder if you're looking at what the hell do you do with these things now up here? What do you do up here? Like, there's no breather, nothing. No breather. You can't size up here, can you? I think you just, this is where you size down and look to try to ride the wave type of thing. This is an explosion. And all of these things look like that. You had CSX that had some dips because the CEO died. And then they swept the living daylights out of that and then went to new highs. Then you just had earnings, a little bit of a pull. But that's about the only one I know that had a pull. So yeah, the trannies have just been. Oh, okay. Well, yeah, that's a whole different strategy. You know, I'm talking about like getting long call side here is tough on a lot of these things. They're done. They're cooked. You know, they're cooked. But for the record, I've said that, Pete, on so many of these things. You know, like I've said that on Marriott for a couple of weeks now. Probably this whole movie from this here. Incredible. PayPal, I didn't see any of you guys mention that name. That's been nice action there. PayPal is one of those names never stopped. Call sweepers every day. Pull, they were sweeping up, I think it was April and June's, and we're back to call sweepers every day. Absolute animal. Animal. This has had the better action of the two. This in Square. No contest. Pete saying, yeah, I hear you. I'm kicking myself getting out. Oh, yeah, Pete. That's the biggest thing. You know, honestly, if there's one knock on this market, especially off flow, is that, like, put it this way. Let's say UNP, right? You had all that activity. You get all excited, and boom, boom, boom. In 3 days, you get a nice trade. Now you're happy. You got a 3-day trade, nice. But you had some really good-looking action come in. You want to buy it again. You want to play it again. You're just being prudent about it. You know, you want to see it come in, maybe catch a little more action there. And it just went. Okay. Now, if that's just one name, you're okay with it. When the whole entire transportation sector, you know, gets bombarded with flow, and then they all look like this, that's where it gets annoying, like Pete said, when you feel like you missed out. You feel like you missed out. You know, you got a couple decent trades out of it, and that's it, out of all that flow. So I think that's been, like a lot of the traders I know that trade professionally off flow, that's where I think they've complained about the most. What else? We got some good questions and names out there today, guys. I appreciate it. Philip Morris. Yeah, there's been some flow, Maria. I'm sure you've seen in MO. Again, these things could be, Maria, if this market needs to chill out, if and when, these might get the attention. You know what I mean? So I think it's a perfect addition. Let's say you're holding, like I said, 2 tech names or names that are tranny and a tech, and you feel they're overheated. You don't want to add another one in that sector or sectors. You know, you look to some of this stuff that's on the opposite side of the spectrum. Okay, but make sure you have time to catch the move. That's the key. You know, make sure you have enough time to catch the move. If you're looking for the decent trade, you know, if you're just looking for a quick trade, that's a whole different story. But just if you're looking for the big trade, you know, just make sure you have enough time to catch it. And you should be okay. Raj is saying, I'm already a member. How do you look up stock symbol on the private Twitter? Oh, Raj, I don't know what you use. I've had issues with it from time to time. I'm told every time Twitter does an update, it screws things up. Like, for example, all you need to do, and a lot of times it works totally fine, but it gets in its moods. Like, see, SL Steam Room, Amazon. Okay. Then you go to latest, and it should at least show the recent action. It might not go far back. See, like this is just showing a couple days of action. That's what it looks like here. Usually, sometimes I go really far back. But I've had people like you say they can't pull up anything. I don't know. I've never gotten an answer on why. I've never gotten an answer on why. This is some of the Amazon block activity that we saw. Look at this guy. What the hell is he doing? Look at this guy. My God. This guy was Feb 1480s catches earnings. This was the Amazon Bazooka. This is the best of the best. If you could play just these and nothing else, there's nothing better. But we're degenerates and we need action. You know what I mean? We need action. This is when? Oh, this is not the Bazooka. This is a couple of days ago. It looks like. Oh no, October. These expired. My bad. All right. What else? Hold on a second. I had a couple more names there. Let's get to a couple more names. Tesla, somebody mentioned, and then UPS. Tesla and UPS. Tesla has had bullish activity. It's been mostly front month, weekly stuff. All right. So smaller call sweepers looking to play the momentum type of thing. So again, the simple answer in Tesla is if you were looking at Tesla for a trade, which a lot of people in the room have, you can use that as confirmation. Okay. Oh, I was looking to buy Tesla into this dip. Jesus just posted that sweeper. I'm playing next week. You know what I mean? That sort of thing. I've been hoping for a good looking bet, a standout bet, and it just hasn't come. It hasn't come yet. But there's been bullish activity. There's been bullish sweepers in Tesla. UPS, same thing. I don't know who asked that. I saw it before. It goes into that transportation category. I don't know what you do up here. I really don't. UPS, one of the few that gave you another chance to buy it after it caught that initial activity. But up here, I don't know, man. I don't know. Again, my recommendation is if you like it, just size down if you think there's more upside because let's be honest, it's not the best entry. You know, spot is not ideal. And FedEx, goes higher. Seems like every day this thing goes higher. Eventually, guys, obviously, these things are going to need to breathe. And hopefully what we see is some rotation into some laggard stuff. I think that's where risk reward spot wise the opportunity is going to be. Because up here, it's almost like musical chairs. You know what I mean? You're trying to make some money here, ride the wave until the music stops. Because from my experience, eventually this stops at some point. You know, you don't need to be market savvy to know that. We had similar moves post-election. After the Trump election, a lot of these things basically went parabolic like this. And then they hit a brick wall. And remember, they did nothing for a bit. Was it like something like this? At the least. Or something like this. At the least. At the least. So if you're wondering, that's what I'm referring to, okay? So basically, this leg could be longer and higher of upside, right? But it's almost like you're looking for an entry up here. And you got to weigh risk reward wise. What am I looking for? Is it worth, is the risk reward worth it to see more upside from here before a pull? How much more upside from here before a pull or some consolidation? So that's what I think. There's a lot of money being made just trading these things while they have the juice. You know, you get an intraday pull. That's an entry for a quick trade, you know, that day, if not the next day, for a snapback, because there's so much strength in these things. You know, that's where I think the people that are having success with these things, one, are in from nice entries and have just sat in it, or what I just mentioned, you know, continuously looking to just trade these things on any little weakness if there's flow. Somebody mentioned the FANG names just quickly. Facebook, you guys remember last webinar last week? Remember that one order? She caught one decent looking order, if you guys remember me telling you. That was it. Saw some flow this week. The standout flow was in 2019 calls. There was some decent action in Facebook. Let me see if I can pull it up for you guys. I know a lot of you guys like to trade this name. Where is it? Yep, this is it right here. Jan 2019 180s. Big amount too. This is what one of the orders looked like. They paid $22.45, and it was sweeper activity. So this was on the 18th. That's what, Thursday? Yeah, the 18th. All right. And then prior to that, do we have that up here? The bet that we were looking at last week. Where was it? There was one good looking sweep into the weakness. Yep. There she is. That's on the 12th. And $1.6 million sweep. Feb 2nd, 182.5 on the 12th. I think she went lower the next day, was it? Let me see. This, yeah, that was the big one down day. So she did go lower after that. You see there? And last 2 days trading higher. All right, so that's the Facebook action. I'm glad you brought that up because I forgot to mention that. I know a lot of you guys like to trade that. Apple, as always before earnings, has seen a decent amount of flow. Several people in the room traded Apple this week, had a good week with it. Netflix, I mean, what could you say about Netflix? Netflix is a monster. There was a Netflix order, I remember saying, let me see, what was that Netflix order late last week? Netflix, April sweeper 250s. Oh, there was a June order, June. Oh, it was a block. Here it is. Netflix, June 250s, $1 million block. That was Friday. So, but, you know, Netflix, like I said, guys, there's been a lot of action in that Netflix. A lot of action. This thing doesn't even go far back. You know, there were some good-looking sweepers that came in onto the latest pullback that just set up lovely. You know, now this thing is in the clouds again. Let's see. All right, Netflix. Here it is right here. See that? These here. Jans, those expired. That was a Jan 195 sweeper, 600 grand. That was December. Stock was 185. These are Decembers that expired. That was another size sweep. Oh, wait, that's not December. That might be wrong when we had the problem. That might be Jan. But anyway, there were a couple of good-looking sweepers into Netflix. Now it's gone. Now it's gone. Here, look at the size in these things. Oh, here, look at this. Jan 2020 leaps a block, 2.8 million. And then Netflix 220. Oh, this was the June bet I just showed you. That was the June bet I just showed you. Amazon, I haven't, there was a block. I showed you that block. As far as sweeper activity, the sweeper that we spoke about on this webinar was the best looking one to hit out of the bunch. The rest has been mostly blocks. And, with earnings, that's pretty common. Oh, it doesn't go back. Unbelievable. But there was a nice Netflix and a Google, GOOG, buyer at the time. That was right around here. All these things have had nice runs. And Goog, same thing. Monsters. So this is what we're doing. We're going into earnings season now. Netflix is Monday, right? So we're going to start to see, the true colors early on here. We're going to see the reaction to these things. If Netflix knocks it out of the park, they might be a chase in all these things until the next one reports. If Netflix disappoints or there's some selling, I think that can set up an opportunity for a trade if they take these things in. But I don't know how much they'll take them in. We'll see. Some of the tech stuff, I think, is stuff to look at. You know what caught a small sweep? I wanted to see a little bit more in this thing. Workday. Late last week. So maybe a run up into earnings. They've done that a couple times with it into the number. Splunk is already gone, right? Yeah, Splunk, they usually do this every quarter. Look at this Splunk. Anybody else have any tech names that are off their highs that are known to catch some action? Dean has a good question. Can we expect the same type of sweeper sharp action in a bear market? Well, it depends, okay, on the bear market. If we're in some sort of correction, that's one of my favorite times to trade, because what you do is you get selling and then you get good looking action that stands out into the selling, and that offers a trading opportunity. But if you're talking about disasters like 2008, the put side is probably where you're looking to play, But if you're talking about some consolidation, normal pullback, yeah, I think you just have to be a little more patient as a swing trader for those. Because what happens is, like a downtrend, right? You go down, then you have a rally, then a lower leg, then a rally. So what happens is they like to come in to the lower part of that range. You see some nice sweeper activity, and then you get a nice trade out of it. What happens is the traders that assume new highs are going to come out of it end up getting caught. But if you're a trader, yeah, consolidation and stuff like that I like it even better, to be honest with you. The reason why I like it better is the markets are not doing much or are weak, okay? But under the hood, it's almost like a stock picker's market. The flow could provide a huge edge because it's telling you where the hot money's going. Right now when everything's hot and things are already overheated, for me, it's just not the same edge, not the same opportunity. Like the trannies we were talking about. So Dean, as crazy as it may sound, I like consolidation corrections better because the risk reward, you know what I mean? I think you have the edge there. I think you have the edge there with flow. Now, don't get me wrong. You get a serious downtrend, you're going to see the good looking call buying dry up, and you're going to see all the momentum on the put side. You're going to see put sweeper activity. Like, for example, the last time we saw that was pre-election for a period. Okay? So, example, pre-election, we saw the flow turn sour. Put sweepers dominated. Okay, just like you're seeing call sweepers now, this board here was littered in all red. Okay? Literally all red. Green would stand out like a sore thumb. And be good, Jonathan. Have a good weekend. And what would happen is you would have to be patient and wait for the board to turn green. It would stick out like a sore thumb. Okay? So we started to see that before the election, like maybe a couple of days, a week before the election. All of a sudden, instead of VXX call buying, we saw VXX put buying. Instead of IWM aggressive put sweeper activity, we would see call activity get aggressive. And the market was still shaky, but the flow started to turn early. That was the opportunity there. You know, if you remember, there was a big squeeze before the election. You know, so you have to wait for the opportunities, be more selective. You know, in these markets, let's be honest, you can break rules, you can throw darts, and you can make money. But when the climate changes, all those habits, they're tough to break. But yeah, the answer to your question, Dean, is the flow will always have trade opportunities, guide you to trade opportunities. Just depending on what you're looking for, you may need to stay more patient for them. You know, like for me right now, I preach this to members 24 hours a day. Don't even look at the put action right now. It's mostly protection. And there's just the worst thing you can do right now is waste your time on trying to trade off any put action. Okay. And if you're in a bear market, that could be the total opposite. You know what I mean? That could be the total opposite, where, you know, the momentum, the quick money is all on the short side. And if you want to play a high confidence long side bet, you're going to have to wait for that flow to change and be patient and allow it to change. So I hope that answers your question. But yeah, the flow, and again, the flow has, no matter what style I'm trading, the flow has kept me out of trouble. For example, in bear markets, if the board's all red and I don't want to trade on the put side because I'm trading equity, I don't want to short, I'm not trading anything. So it keeps me disciplined. You know, I'm not going to create my own, stock pick for the day. I'm waiting for aggressive call sweeper activity to come in. Otherwise, I'm not doing a thing in a bear market. So it keeps me disciplined. Couple quick ones. Kodak, you know, it's weird because this Kodak has been seeing some flow again. You guys probably remember, caught action, explosion, profit taking, and we're seeing now July $15 calls or something stupid like that. But yeah, Kodak had some action. Now listen, it could be some of that Jan buying, because they were buying Jans rolling out. You understand? So it may not be all fresh buying, but Kodak has had call flow. Yeah, Mattel had a nice move. Already a pretty decent trade for Mattel. The one thing I just want to throw out there with Mattel, it's spec action. They play this name numerous times in the past. If you're looking for news, just make sure you know it may not show up and it's going to give back everything it already has done. Okay? I say this every time. Every time Mattel catches aggressive sweep or spec flow, I say there's a trade there. And it may come quick too. The thing's worth looking at for a quick trade. But if you're looking to play for news and you think you're going to walk into a buyout or something like that, and that's what you're playing for, just understand that the odds are against you. All right? The odds are against you. Okay, can it happen? Yeah, of course it can happen. But 9 out of 10 times it doesn't. And I think you're better off looking to take advantage of the momentum that's created off that juice than trying to catch the news. That's where the trade is. So if you remember, Mattel caught the action not Friday. Thursday was the big action in Mattel. Had a pop. I day traded it. A couple of us day traded it on the equity side. They were cheap calls. I think some people played the cheap calls too. And you get this the next day. You know, you may get another day or two out of it. Who knows, whatever the case may be. But that's what you're playing for. You know, everything else you're rolling the dice, and just understand that, you know? That's all. BG, I didn't see any flow on BG of recent, but the Archer Daniel Midland I saw flow, believe it or not, which was weird. Oh, that's not it. That's it. ADM caught sweeper activity. So, weird. I didn't see anything really noteworthy in the Bungie, though. GBT, yes, I still have some GBT. I don't know what I'm going to do with it. You know, I might sell another piece of it. I don't know what the hell I'm going to do with it. Maybe you leave a runner. You know what I mean? Leave something that I'm willing just to forget about. See, the problem is, like, when I bought these things March, I had a good amount of time. Now, you know, we're running into February, so I don't want to hold these things into expiration, really. And maybe, you know what, Tom, maybe they roll out, or maybe they start hitting some lines further out. Maybe I'll roll some out there. Yeah. That's what I might do. But yeah, she's been a nice one. Again, the flow, it wasn't just a flow. You had the spot too. You know, you had the spot too. Like the GBT action came right here. So you hear me talk about the consolidation, right? Look at all this dead action here. Pull, dead. All of a sudden, ridiculous buying comes in. You know, instant move. So whatever you wanted to trade it, you could loosen up, and whatever you wanted to hang on to, you had a nice entry to leave alone, and sometimes you get lucky. You know what I mean? So like, and that's, for example, like the FBHS, similar type action, but the difference is obvious, right? It comes here. So it would be like if it came here somewhere. You know, out of some consolidation. This is coming into strength. But they've been doing well. Remember Place? Do you guys remember that one? Quote a good looking order? She's still pushing highs. You know, that was similar to this FBHS. I think the action was right here, right? The play sweep? I think so. Right around here somewhere. And, oh, you know what I got on the board? I'm just curious. Uh, 155 at 144. That was 12/29. Yeah, December. Yeah, so I was right there. All right, guys. Any other questions before we go? Did I miss anybody or anything at all? Cod saying, make some money. Thank you, Tom, for Saturday's sweet webinar. Thanks for coming, Cod. Everybody, I appreciate everybody coming out. I really do appreciate you guys spending the Saturday morning. All right. If you have any questions, you know where to find me. And good luck next week. Enjoy the rest of the weekend. Good luck on your earnings positions for you degenerates out there. And we'll do it again next Saturday, all right? Enjoy the weekend next week. Be good, everybody.